Good evening, or it might be good afternoon, wherever you might be from. And let me just turn myself down so I'm not hearing myself. That'd be good. Hello, how is everybody? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat, will do. It's fine if you can hear me, if it's crystal clear. That'd be awesome, just so that I know I'm coming through good. Seem to be coming through okay. Coming through good. Excellent. Thank you very much. Great stuff. So who we got? Have joined us. We had Real Cygnus at the beginning saying yo. That's really good. Emma Shedler 49, welcome. Thank you very much. We have Fred Bailey. We got Tiny Captain. Tiny Captain, I got your friend Facebook friend request. We got that. Thank you very much. Slicks666, as always. Charlie Welch. Charlie hasn't told me to shut up yet. Usually does. Simon Hagger, good to see you. You're welcome. John Rapp. Hey, g'day, John. How's it going? Tiny Captain, that was Slicks. Judy Bassett. Judy, hello. Good to see you. And Stephen J. Green. We're good to see you in Spain. Well, thank you very much. Welcome, Spain. Okay. So what treat have I got for you today? Well, it is the first orbital launch from British soil. Royal Britannia. So proud. Royal bloody Britannia. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Let's find out a little bit about what this launch is about. Okay, so as you probably see, it is Virgin Orbit. Fairly new startup space company, and it's an air launch. So, Start Me Up is 7 payloads for the government and private customers. It includes the US Space Force. So obviously their payloads are going to be secret. It's just various satellites of a small nature. And like I said, is the first launch from, or orbital launch from the United Kingdom. Awesome, because we don't have any launch pads in the UK, but it'll be good though, wouldn't it? I mean, we could probably at least do like polar orbits, couldn't we? I don't know, maybe somewhere convenient. That'd be really nice to see, but there we go. So a little bit about it's been launched by a rocket called LauncherOne. As I said, it's from an air launch from an adapted 747, I believe, called Cosmic Girl. So LauncherOne's manufactured by Virgin Orbit, with the first launch on the 25th of May of 2020. Launch has 4 successful launches so far, 1 failed one, so with a total of 5 launches. Launcher was a 2-stage orbital launch vehicle developed by Virgin Orbit since 2007. It's an air launch orbit rocket designed to launch smallsat payloads of up to 300 kilograms. And that's into low Earth orbit. So 500 kilograms up into low Earth orbit, I should say. So relatively small payloads, as you're sure you can appreciate. So a little bit about Virgin Orbit. For those of you who don't know, Virgin Orbit is a company within the Virgin Group and plans to provide launch services for small satellites. The company was formed in 2017 to develop the air launch LauncherOne rocket launched from Cosmic Girl, as I've mentioned, which had previously been projected or been a project, of Virgin Galactic. As you might have heard of. Based in Long Beach, California, Virgin Orbit has more than 300 employees led by President Dan Hart, a former vice president of the government satellite systems in Boeing. So this launch today really is in partnership with the UK Space Agency. I'm sure some of you probably never knew that the UK had a space agency. Well, they do. We do, of sorts. It's not funded very much. We don't launch an awful lot, but it exists. It really does. So how much we're going to see with this launch, I don't honestly know. I haven't really seen any from the system myself. I've not really watched any. But because it's the first one from British soil, I thought it would be remiss of me if I didn't live stream this one. So soon I'm going to be going over to Virgin, heading over to them to see what's going on. Let me just check what's going on with them at the moment. No, they're not ready to go just yet anyway. So I thought we could maybe just have a little natter for the time being. Who's joined us? Who we got? Who's got any comments? Fred Bailey. Oh, the plane is one of Branson's old jumbos, ex-Virgin. Is it? It's an ex-Virgin plane. I'm sure it must be, yeah. Engineered from Lifetime, welcome. I have to admit, I'm a bit miffed by this. I used to surf at Watergate Bay. Then Jamie Oliver opened up the 15 restaurant, and the niche bar, whatever that is, went all posh. Now the airport is a spaceport. Oh, okay. I don't really know much about that, to be perfectly honest with you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Slick666 says, the only thing I know about the UK Space Agency is from Real Civil Engineer, and he's honkers. Right, okay. Roger Rabbit, it's time to put on makeup. It's time to light the lights. I'm not going to sing that. So if you think I'm going to start singing that, you've got another thing coming. What next? A usable 3G signal. Don't be silly. Not in Cornwall, surely. Have they invented the wheel in Cornwall yet, or invented fire or anything yet? I shouldn't say things like that because actually my family comes from all that kind of direction, so I shouldn't be saying things like that. John Rapp, g'day mate, how's it going? A bit late for the moon base Alpha Space 1999. Yeah. Raz, oh, good question. I should have known. Raz, what time is scheduled liftoff? I believe the let me have a look. I believe the launch window opens at 12:15 GMT AM. That is, I think. I forgot to check on that. I must admit, I do apologise. I'm a bit lacking in that. I'm sorry if I don't look my best today. I've been kind of laid up with bad back pain, and I've been popping pills, painkillers like it's no tomorrow. So I'm sorry I don't probably look the best at the moment. Let me just see. I'm going to just double check my timings. Let's have a look. Start me up. Launch window. Let's have a look. Oh no, beg your pardon. So I'm a bit late for that. Yeah, actually at 10:16 p.m. GMT, that is the launch window begins, and I believe it's a 2-hour launch window. Yeah, so 10:16, which is 10:16 UTC. So that's what 5:16 Eastern, something like that. So yeah, that's when the launch window opens. As for what I've been told about air launches, sometimes the launch windows can be a little bit fluid. So it wouldn't necessarily launch at that time. As you could appreciate, it's the same with most rocket launches, to be honest with you. It doesn't always launch at that time as well. So there you go. That answers your question. So thank you very much for bringing that up, Raz. I'm glad you asked that because I didn't mention it, and I apologise. I should have done. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. So who else have we got? Sorry, Bonkers, Rich 901. Who's the other student? Oh, right, okay. Popping pills like Tic Tacs. Almost. Yesterday, I woke up with an ache, of course, just below my shoulder blade, and it just got worse in the day as the day went, and then by sort of late afternoon, even time, it just got really bad, and it didn't matter what way I was laying down and all the rest of it. I just couldn't get comfortable. So then I started taking painkillers of different kinds. Of course, I kept within the dosage rates. Of course. No, I didn't. Hot water battle helped, and also my good partner. She looked after me. She always does. She's great. She always looks after me. Some woman just stole my cat. Oh, did somebody just walk past and steal the cat? That was probably Nina. Steve, did you steal the cat? Yeah. She did, yeah. She just walked past and got the cat. Yeah, that was Nina. She's the one that looks after me very well. Cosmic Girl, I think, is so look, yeah. Christopher Rogers, yeah. Cosmic Girl is the place called. Yeah, that's right. As mentioned before, was a frequent passenger 747 from Gatwick to Barbados. I flew on her a few times. Oh, right, very good. All right, so it is, yeah. It was a regular plane then, stuff like that. Well, I thought, so I'm sure it's heavily adapted. John Rat, 1 hour and 18 minutes. Yeah, that's when the launch window opens. But Ben, bear in mind, it might not happen at that time. I have absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. No, I don't have that switched on hobby time, I'm afraid. But I will get the bots actually on my chats. I think it's about time I did. I did try to actually attempt to get it on, but I'm probably doing something a little bit wrong. So I have no idea, but I'll get the bots to play games and things like that. And I think because sometimes when you get some of these launches, you're actually hanging around for quite a while, and sometimes it can be a bit boring. So it's good to actually maybe get some sort of entertainment. So anyway, how was everybody's New Year? Hope you were having a great New Year. Anybody got any new changes they're making in the new year at all? I always think I will do, but I never do. So around 2:15 PST, yeah, 2:15 Pacific, yeah, that would be. So another 2 hours behind that, yeah. So that's about right, Roger. Absolutely, yeah. Why, John Rapp? Why are you putting exclamation mark coffee? Are you expecting to get some coffee from me? Because I'm not serving coffee. You can get your own coffee. You can get me a cup of coffee if you like. Yeah. So how was everybody? So how was everybody's New Year? What did you do for Christmas, and what did you do for your New Year? And have you made any changes or anything exciting happening, or anything you're looking forward to for the new year? Intentions versus goal for 2023. Yeah. That's always a battle, isn't it? Always makes important, Well, I mean, I'm trying to make a change, because I sort of tentatively started a diet early on in the week, but it's not going all that well already at the moment. But I need to make if I'm going to do that and go onto a proper diet, I need to make a proper plan and do things properly. In terms of this year, I'm looking forward to. I was saying this actually on the Shills the other day, was that one of the things I'm looking forward to actually is seeing what the Chinese are doing. The Chinese seem to be moving quite forward rapidly with their various projects in space. Tiangong, as you know, that's going really well. They're they've landed a probe and a rover on the Mars. Oh, sorry, on the moon. And they're really pushing forward actually to landing more stuff on the moon unmanned and also manned very, very soon. So Bill Nelson actually showed some concerns that they thought perhaps the Chinese might corner the best resources on the South Pole, which they're concerned about. So who knows? There might be a bit of a space race starting. So who knows? I don't know. What do you think? So that kind of be interesting within the next year to see what develops with that. So what's going on with Virgin at the moment? They still haven't gone live at the moment. That's what Slick66 says. 30th of March, I'm scattering my boyfriend. Oh, all right, I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, yeah. Sorry, so 30th of March, I'm scattering my boyfriend's ashes if weather is okay. It was his birthday. Oh, that's a good time to do that. Slicks, very good. Roger Rabbit, a diet. What's with a T? Oh, that's right. Yeah. I do need to lose some weight. I need to try and improve my health a little bit. That's what I'm sort of. That's what I'm intending to do in the new year. Yeah. Well. Okay, so what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if there's anything else happening elsewhere with Virgin. Virgin itself has not gone live. They're actually running a little bit late. But let's just see if there's any news. Perhaps they've delayed or whatever. Let's see if we've got anything on Twitter that we can bring up. In the meantime, we can talk about a few of the different things that might be happening while I check that just for the moment. Let's have a look. Sometimes with these things, if they run late, they delay the stream as well. So who knows? Okay. Virgin Orbit. Let's have a look. Enable overlay. Let's see if I can bring that up. Yeah, so there you go. Last tweet, there we go, up on the screen now. Virgin Orbit, this mission, we've been working closely with the UK Civil Aviation Authority Blah, 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 to make necessary preparations for liftoff. Yeah, so no other news from them at the moment. Nothing negative anyway. So as far as we know, it's all go at the moment. But annoyingly, they are running late. Well, I suppose it's no different from NASA. NASA are always late with something. So I'll tell you what I'll do. Just while we're doing that, we'll perhaps look at some news. I always post some news on my Twitter profile anyway, and I noticed a few different things recently. Let's have a look. Yeah, this one caught my eye. I think it was a bit weird, and it was from a website called Physics, Phys.org, I should say. And it came up on my Space News app, and he says space weather is an ever-increasing threat to humanity, but it's not the sun's fault; it's ours, apparently. Totally. So I didn't really get to sort of looking into that. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I didn't get to looking into it. So I'll tell you what we'll do is I'll read it with you together. And it says space age technologies have made fundamental changes to the way we live our lives. Avionics allows us to fly other continents on almost a moment's notice. GNSS services enable us to navigate our cars and roads and even drive before without a paper map. And some form of radio has been a backbone of our entertainment and communications networks. So what happens if a solar storm disrupts all of that? That is the focus of a new review paper by Natalia Bazlokova and Bruce Sarantani, whoever that might be. So I probably absolutely destroyed that translation, so sorry. One of the world's leading experts on space weather. They stretch, we haven't adequately prepared for one such a millennial solar storm that may be coming soon. Yes, I did hear that there might be a very big solar storm coming pretty soon. And they're a bit concerned. That is probably because so much storm has happened yet. Probably no, because no such storm has happened yet. But there was one noticeably extreme one in almost modern history. In 1859, a series of large sunspots appeared on the sun, and a little less than a day later, a massive aurora appeared over the world. It is now known that the Carrington event, that's right, if you heard about the Carrington event, after one of the scientists that documented it, it might have been a precursor to one that's coming in future in extreme weather events. Telegraphs were the peak of technology advancement of the age of 1859, and the Carrington event devastated the nascent technology. Yeah, it did. The induced ionic current in the atmosphere caused massive voltage spikes in the telegraph lines with such high induced voltages. It was inevitable that some of the lines would arc between each other, and that is exactly what happened. The resulting electric arcs caused many fires along the telegraph system, including some offices. Communications were also interrupted for a large part of the day as the storm hit Earth. So, yeah, so it begs the question, how prepared are we for such a big storm, solar storm, like the Carrington event? You know, kind of a bit of a worry, really. And they think that one is due very, very soon. Yeah, so, yeah, what do you guys think? Are we prepared? I mean, I know a lot of the power companies are saying that they have plans put in place to mitigate it and to help it, but I don't know. Are they? Are they really prepared? I don't know, but let's hopefully they are. Who we got? Join us in the chat. Anybody else? We've got HeyMG. Is China continuing to work with the space station, or did they decide to proceed without international engagement? Do you mean, HeyMG, do you mean the ISS? I don't believe, as it stands at the moment, and I think that's always been the case, the Chinese are not invited to participate with the ISS. As far as I know at the moment. I mean, the future of the ISS still is unknown at the moment. NASA are pulling out apparently within 2027. What Russia are planning to do, I don't honestly know. So they, as I said, they've got their own space station, as you know. Space station, as you know, is the Tiangong at the moment, and they seem to be quite happy with that. It's really looks quite slick. I don't know if you've seen the internal parts of the Tiangong, but yeah, it looks much tidier, much more slick than the ISS. I mean, the ISS basically is a working lab, isn't it, as we know? So yeah. End to end, just looking at the weather radar, there's a few showers heading towards Cornwall. No lightning, slightly overcast, looks normal. Yeah, don't know. Nothing on Twitter about it at all at the moment. So haven't heard anything. No changes as far as we're aware. Let's just have a look. I'm just going to have a look and see if there's anything new. But they certainly are starting late. They're not. They are not starting on time, which they should have done by now. Let's have a look, see if anybody else is commenting on Twitter or anything like that about it. Let's go back and have a look at Virgin Orbit. Yeah, again, Virgin Orbit, excuse me, Virgin Orbit tweeted literally 3 minutes ago, but nothing as it stands at the moment. She says, we're so excited to bring the real-time views from Space Cornwall via our mission Livestream. Following our live tweets, we break through our major launch milestones, learn more about the mission and the space and what's blah, blah, blah. Let's have a look. Nothing else at the moment. Nothing going on, no updates of any description that I can detect or we can see. Nobody's saying anything. So don't really know why they have not gone live at the moment. Really don't know. Really do not know. So anyway, let's return to the chat. We'll keep monitoring that, see what's going on. What I'll do is I'll probably sign off myself just at the moment and put you on some music and stuff, and I'll switch off the camera, and then I'll come back to you with some updates. I think it's probably the best thing to do. The quiet before the storm. Yeah, you might well be, Emma Shidler. Yeah. Just switch your electric off at the mains. Why would I want to switch off my electric at the mains? Is that aimed at me, hobby time? I hope not. I definitely do not want to be switching my electric off at the mains for sure. How long has Virgin working on this prep for this flight? Well, this particular flight, at least for the last few years, I think, at least. But the securing the actual payloads has probably been taken all the way up until literally probably over the last number of weeks. It was always going to be a ride share. As you know, there's various payloads for different companies, including the United States Space Force. But I mean, this whole project for LauncherOne, the stuff has been developed since 2007, as I mentioned there as well. Yeah, solar flare mitigation. We were just talking about that a little while ago, weren't we? Yeah. Oh, well, tell you what, right? I'm going to. It's hard to actually sort of figure out what's going on while I'm talking at the same time, trying to keep you guys entertained. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put you on the title screen with a bit of music, and then I will try and find out what's going on, if anything, and I will come back to you and update you if that's okay. So I will see you shortly.
sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I truly believe that responsive small launch will change the world.
Welcome to Start Me Up. We are live from Spaceport Cornwall here in beautiful Cornwall, UK. My name is Melissa Thorpe and I am the head of Spaceport Cornwall, where I am so privileged to lead my incredible team in turning an airport into a spaceport. I'm also so lucky to have in the studio with me Natalie, and across the pond in Long Beach, Chris.
I'm Natalie Burgos, senior producer of live broadcasts and events. I work on a team in charge of brand and communications. And back over to you, Chris.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Rolfe. I'm the Director of Systems Engineering and Verification here at Virgin Orbit. And my teams include the interdisciplinary engineers that own the high-level definition, design, and verification of our launch program. As Mel said, I'm your North American correspondent for today. I'm here in sunny Long Beach, California, at our payload processing facility, just down the street from the just down the street from the factory where the rocket you'll see launch today was built. Back to you in the UK.
Well, this is an exciting mission built on a tried and true platform, but not just for Virgin Orbit being our first international launch, but with multiple partners.
Yeah, and it's our first ever launch here from the UK, and that's so exciting for us, as well as the first orbital launch from Europe. It's also the first launch for some of our customers, including our friends at Spaceforge from Cardiff, as well as the Sultanate of Oman. It's truly an exciting moment for us here. The crowd outside is really excited. I hope you can feel that energy across the pond in Long Beach, Chris.
Mel, although this isn't our first launch here at Virgin Orbit, every launch is exciting and we're feeling your excitement too. And just before we came online, I saw there was about 25,000 people that were already in the waiting room for the YouTube stream of this. So there's a lot of people that are excited here as well. So today you're going to be hearing over the program the audio from our MCC, or our Mission Control Center. And what that is you'll hear a lot of people on that line, including folks like our launch director, our ground crew, our department consoles, our flight crew, and our launch engineers. And anything that they're talking through today, if there's a little extra information that I can provide, a little extra color, I'll do that. This morning I sat in on the morning briefing. Our aircraft systems, rocket systems, ground systems, and our weather, both ground and, if you can imagine, our space weather, are all nominal, and we are go for launch today. Another thing that you're going to see throughout the program today are our graphical user interfaces, or our GUIs. And we're going to bring up our rocket load GUI right now. As you can see on the screen here, we have our LauncherOne in the top section of the screen. On the left is our stage 1, which does most of the heavy lifting. On the right is our stage 2, and that's the pointy end where all our payloads live. This is live data that you're seeing right now coming from our systems. You can see that both our fuel, which is RP1, and our liquid oxygen, our oxidizer, is at 100% for both of our stages, as well as our helium, both cold and hot helium. Everything else here looks normal right now. Our pressures are good, our battery bus voltages are good, Cosmic Girl is performing normally, including our pallets and pylons. And as I said, we'll be seeing different GUIs through the program depending on the stages of flight that we're in. But for now, we're going to watch a quick video on some information on the UK Space Agency.
It's an immensely exciting period for the UK to be part of the very first launch of satellites into orbit from the UK. More so than that, the very first time that satellites have been launched into orbit from Europe as well. It marks a seminal point in the growth of the space economy for the UK, unlocking jobs regionally and nationally on the back of an £11 million investment in Cornwall with Virgin Orbit. Deeply excited to be involved, but more than that, it demonstrates the UK's position within the sector, launch alongside satellite design, manufacture, satellite operations, and the exploitation of downstream data as well. And more importantly, inspiring the next generation of youngsters to become involved in the space sector, whether from a technical perspective or from a business perspective as well. So for me, it's a moment of personal pride, but it also marks an immense amount of pride from the agency, across government, across our partners with Virgin Orbit and Spaceport Cornwall, and also it's a moment of national pride to be inspired through British technology and British leadership.
So why are we here today? One word: satellites. Satellites underpin so much of our daily lives, and we're so lucky to have several of them flying with us today. First up is Prometheus 2 from the National Reconnaissance Office. First up is Prometheus 2 from the National Reconnaissance Office. And Prometheus 2 is 2 CubeSats, and it's a great example of joint UK-US partnership. Let's hear a little bit more about this amazing technology.
This is the first MOD-owned satellite that we've launched in 20 years, and we'll be on the very first space launch from the United Kingdom with Virgin Orbit. So it's an incredibly exciting program and really does get us on the path to greater capability.
As a country, and in fact all over the world, what people are really starting to look at is responsive space launch. What we're showing is how we can have this capability brought in and how we can have flexible capability to be able to launch different spacecraft at different times as and when is required, rather than having to ship your spacecraft over to a different country for a vertical launch.
Prometheus 2 is a collaboration between MOD, between Defence Science Technology Labs, DSTL, and international partners, including the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO, as well.
This mission will contribute to the understanding of how you can do space protection and space situational awareness. So collaboration with other agencies, particularly Space Command and indeed UK Space Agency, for where we'll eventually launch the programme on from Cornwall on the Virgin Orbiter. And what we're using it for is basically an in-orbit testbed for RF sensing, geolocation experiments and radar detection experiments.
The satellites we're building are going to be used as research demonstrators. We were able to bring a lot of our design work that we'd done on our Faraday 1 mission, including a number of the payloads and the platform design, to the programme. We then were able to fold that together with the work that Airbus were doing and with a lot of the requirements that DSTL had been evolving over the last few years.
DSTL are incredibly important to the technology that we are using to develop our capability over the coming years. So Prometheus 2, as the first step on that path, I think is incredibly exciting, and DSTL are front and center in terms of where we're going.
Just a quick MCC update here from Virgin Orbit. Our red team has approached the vehicle to do our disconnects, and that is normal. That's normal for this phase of the mission. That means that we're fully loaded and getting ready to go. A couple of notes here on the Virgin Orbit purpose. We're on a mission to open space for everyone, and that's enabling a host of companies, research organizations, and universities to have the ability to have a space present where traditional ground launch is cost prohibitive. We support our customers to open up communication channels during natural disaster events, global and local conflicts. We're enabling the real-time monitoring of humanitarian weather and climate crises, providing infrastructure for telemedicine and global connectivity, controlling the environmental impact of production, and preventing illegal trafficking and smuggling. We're really proud of our customers' work, and we're grateful to be a small part of it. We're going to bring up a couple of graphics now and give you some information about our actual launch platform that we're using today. The first one we're going to look at is Cosmic Girl. Cosmic Girl is a 747-400, and not a lot of people know, but Cosmic Girl actually was her name before she came to us. She had originally flown with Virgin Atlantic, doing a route between England and the US. She's the baddest of them all, let's admit it. LauncherOne is our launch vehicle today. She is a two-stage rocket, as I had mentioned earlier, using both RP1 as the fuel, and we have liquid oxygen on board as our oxidizer. Stick with us, we'll be right back with some more facts.
Getting to space can be a problem when you're a small satellite. You're either grounded, waiting for a ride, or drifting in space for months before you get to your destination. But there is a solution. Air launch. Instead of launching a big rocket from the ground, you take a 35,000-foot shortcut straight towards the stratosphere. That's where you launch your rocket. You can fly smaller rockets more often to more orbits for less money. It's getting everybody's attention. But it's not a new concept. The first air launch happened way back in World War I. And for 100 years since, it's been a key part of some extraordinary projects. So what's new? Well, satellites for one. They caught up by scaling down. Small, cheap satellites mean more access to space. And demand has never been higher. It's a new era. The space economy of the future will rely heavily on small satellites, pushing the need for more dedicated launches. Imagine one satellite failing in your globe-spanning constellation. It'd be like, we need to launch a replacement and we need to launch now. Only air launch can do that. Why? Well, a few reasons. First, when you build a launch pad, cram it full of electronics, and set it on fire with a rocket engine, it takes a while to fix between launches. And to keep us safe back on Earth, under every launch is a no-go restricted zone. So if Weekend Warrior Willie finds himself sailing past that line, the whole mission could be scrubbed. This no-go box is smaller and farther from people when you launch from the air. Oh, and don't forget Mother Nature. Thankfully, the weather is better above the clouds. This can all cause congestion for ground launches, but not every mission can wait. Air launch can be more responsive, more flexible, and less disruptive. It's launch on demand, just like booking a flight. Now all you need to get to space is access to a runway and a dream. Wait, did I mention that it's an airplane that can launch your rocket to space from anywhere on the planet? Anywhere? That's huge, considering there are over 180 countries without easy access to a launch pad. They'll need to launch thousands of satellites to space in the next few years. Without air launch, the math doesn't add up. Soon, satellite makers and operators will be able to launch from anywhere at any time, and countries and businesses around the world will have access to space like never before. This is big. It's democratizing space. So the question is no longer, how am I going to get there? It's, where do I want to go?
Welcome back. I'd like to recap some of our previous launches here at Virgin Orbit. So we started off with Tubular Bells. That marked our operational debut of Virgin Orbit's launch service. For Tubular Bells, we successfully carried 7 satellites to low Earth orbit. With Above the Clouds, rightfully named, we achieved new orbital inclinations never before possible on the West Coast, and also launched through inclement weather. This was our 3rd successful consecutive flight in less than 12 months and included a rapid call-up for our Spire customer, where we went from notification to fully integrated satellite in less than 24 hours. Some of the types of satellites that were included on Above the Clouds included experiments in space-based communication, space debris detection, in-space navigation and propulsion, as well as satellites that will serve a more global agricultural sector. And then back in July, our Straight Up mission carried 7 satellites to low Earth orbit, making a total of 33 satellites launched as of our 4th mission. Similar to this evening tonight in the UK, Straight Up was also our first demonstration of a nighttime launch. So that's pretty exciting for today.
Absolutely, and we have been on the edge of our seats for each one of those launches over here. We've been watching each one. We've been learning so much for each one as well. And we've implemented in everything that you've seen here tonight, ready for us to launch for the first time in your first launch out of the US. So thank you for those previous launches. They've been so exciting. Yeah. And now it's our turn. But why are we here? Why are we launching from the UK? Well, we actually build a large majority of the world's small satellites here in the UK, but up until tonight, we have never been able to launch them. So with Virgin Orbit, we are now able to access space and be the gateway to space for not just the UK, but also for Europe. And that means a lot to a local economy like Cornwall. And for Cornwall, it means that we can bring jobs, we can grow and diversify the economy, and my favorite bit, we can inspire an entire generation of new people into the space realm. We're so excited and we're so happy to be launching with Virgin Orbit here. And I think we're going to talk about some of the future spaceports that you have coming up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this launch recap video for now.
Welcome back. Quick update from the Mission Control Center here. As I had mentioned earlier, our red team have approached the vehicle for all of the fuel line disconnects and the data disconnects as well. Another thing that we have checked since we were last on screen was all of our data communications to our downrange stations. We'll talk a little bit about the ground stations a little bit later, but we are confirming that all of the dishes that will receive the data from the rocket during its flight today are online, and we are still go for launch. You may be hearing on the mission control chatter the talk of an LCC. That's our launch commit criteria. We are currently working through all of our console permissions to hear all the go for flights from all of those departments. So stick with us. We'll be back in a minute.
LD on control, be advised we started number 3 engine on Cosmic Girl.
LCC on control run. LCCs are go for takeoff.
Base copies on control. MCCs go for takeoff. SMA to LDLC on control. I'm going to take over the PTZ camera while we do takeoff, or while we roll out for takeoff. LD on control room. SMA, please repeat. I'm going to take over the PTZ camera for takeoff and roll. Or sorry, roll for takeoff. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, and I appreciate you sticking with us as I give you another pronunciation and linguistics lesson on the difference between Australian pronunciation and American. We're actually going to take a look at our flight path now. Quick MCC update. We are go for takeoff. That was just called about 30 seconds ago. So we're going to bring our graphic up that shows the actual flight path that Cosmic Girl will take after she takes off from Spaceport Cornwall. Once that's come off, you'll see that she'll track over the water there, taking off in a westerly direction out towards Ireland, and is going very close to counties Kerry and Cork. Then she'll take a left-hand turn and go into what we call our racetrack. And as you can see, it's aptly named because of the shape. We do 2 passes in the racetrack. The first one is the cold pass, and that's essentially where we're doing a lot of checks on the aircraft, the rocket, the prevailing winds, and the weather. And then we go into what we call our hot pass, and that's where LauncherOne goes onto its own battery power and switches to autonomous mode. When we're getting very close to the drop point, our pilots will pull into the aircraft pull-up maneuver. You'll hear on the MCC audio the words release, release, release that will come from the pilots. The rocket will drop on its way to space, and Cosmic Girl will come home to Cornwall. Special shout out to our airspace support in this region of the world from the UK and from Eurocontrol, as well as authorities in Ireland, Portugal, Spain, and France. Stay with us, we'll be back in a moment.
And let's have a little bit of a chat about who's on board Cosmic Girl today. We're so lucky to have 2 pilots and 2 launch engineers who are incredibly talented and well-versed in Cosmic Girl and this incredible launch that we're about to see. We'll talk about our 2 pilots first. We have Matthew Stannard, or Stanny, as he likes to be known, our RAF test pilot who's on secondment from the RAF over to Virgin Orbit. Joining him in the cockpit is Chief Pilot Eric Bippert. The 2 of them are an incredible team, and we know they're going to do an amazing job for us tonight up above the Atlantic Ocean. Joining them in the back, we have 2 launch engineers. We have Dale Alexander, and we also have Bryce Schaefer. These 4 have been amazing. We've really got to know them here in Cornwall. They've been doing test flights around the county, as well as getting into the schools and really inspiring the local school children about maybe becoming a pilot or a launch engineer or working with rockets. So the whole community is definitely cheering them on down here in Cornwall tonight. I think we'll leave it there for a moment and we'll watch Cosmic Girl as she hopefully starts to make her way around the airfield.
Control, be advised, Cosmic Girl's taxi.
As you can see on our visuals right now, Cosmic Girl is taxiing. Like I had said earlier, we had cleared all of our launch commit criteria and cleared for takeoff. Our ground crew had cleared the area, and our pilots are ready for takeoff. So we're just positioning ourselves for wheels up, still planned in the next minute or two. As Natalie had said earlier, this is our second nighttime takeoff. Our last mission was also a nighttime. And some folks in the area of Cornwall and also the counties I mentioned earlier in the south part of Ireland may have noticed in the last couple of weeks Cosmic Girl making some practice runs out there off the coast. Cosmic Girl is now on the runway taking off. And we are wheels off the ground. Godspeed LauncherOne, Godspeed Cosmic Girl on this historic both European and UK mission to open space for everyone. As I'd mentioned earlier on the flight path description, Cosmic Girl will now bank to the left and take her route, which is approximately west-southwest, out over the ocean from Spaceport Cornwall.
LD Radiohead on control room, S-band lock acquired in Newquay.
Copy, S-band lock acquired in Newquay.
Up until the disconnects a few minutes ago, the data or the data that you had seen coming through any of our graphical user interfaces was coming through a umbilical connection to our ground support equipment. One of the things that makes us special as a launch provider is our agility, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the bulk of our ground support equipment is mobile, meaning that some of the new aircraft we have purchased here at Virgin Orbit, being cargo aircraft, we can load a couple of rockets plus all of the ground support equipment, which includes our rocket fuel and our liquid oxygen conditioning ground support equipment, can be loaded on the aircraft itself and then transported to whichever runway can support a 747. So we unload the rockets, we mate the payloads to the front, usually through a special clean room that has been set up. We also have a mobile clean room that we can bring to different launch sites. Then it's attached to the rocket, and that can be done either inside a clean room or while it's still attached under the wing of Cosmic Girl. And we've done that a couple of times on recent missions, where we essentially back up the payload conditioning trailer to Cosmic Girl while she is attached under wing with LauncherOne, and then done the connection there. So the idea is that we can fly to your port or your airport, your spaceport, land, roll out our ground support equipment, our payload processing facility, do the work over a few days, connect it up to your facilities, and then take off, launch the rocket, come back to the base, and then fly to the next port. You can see on the graphical user interface here, all of our temperatures and pressures remain to be nominal. Some of the more interesting stuff you'll see is now down at the bottom of the screen, where the Cosmic Girl panel shows that she's currently a little over 300 miles per hour and steadily climbing, just gone past 12,000 feet. Cosmic Girl, of course, like any other aircraft, is captained. And that means that the captain on board in the cockpit is the person that is the authority on the vehicle. So there may be some slight changes to altitude climbing or the trajectory that Cosmic Girl uses to move out to the racetrack, and that's up to the captain. But generally what we expect to see here is that when we're in the racetrack for the cold pass, we'll be at approximately a little over 35,000 feet. I had mentioned the data coming through earlier through an umbilical. Once we had disconnected from that IT trailer that's sitting on the tarmac next to Cosmic Girl, all of our data is being streamed through RF links or radio frequency links. So they're essentially a type of Wi-Fi. Our aircraft has that, so our rocket data will come up to the aircraft and then the aircraft can transmit back to the ground, and you can see the live data that you see here on the GUI. Once the rocket is dropped, it has its own S-band transmitter. It's a relatively tried and true technology, S-band. That's the same technology that streamed the photos of the initial Apollo moon landing through the Parkes Radio Telescope in New South Wales, Australia, back before I was born. But that will be transmitting to multiple ground stations that are across the globe as we fly our trajectory to orbit. We will show some graphics a little later in the program that show the trajectory of the rocket today, as well as the ground stations that will be tracking her as she works her way to release the payloads.
Wow, that was amazing. I had to step out and see that with my own eyes. So thank you, Chris. That was so informative as well. I'm absolutely buzzing. That was huge. And now we can't wait for rocket launch. I'm now joined in the studio by a good friend, Steve Isley, who is Vice President of Business Development from Virgin Orbit. Hi.
Hey, Mel. Yeah, I mean, what an exciting day. And I'm really pleased to introduce the Secretary of State, Grant Shapps, who's in charge of the Department for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy, leading an economy-wide transformation by backing enterprise and unleashing the UK as a science superpower through innovation. Grant, thank you so much for being with us here on this historic day. You've really been instrumental in helping bring launch to the UK and supporting the industry. You probably know this is actually the first, of course, historic launch from UK soil and also historic launch from Western Europe. Tell our viewers, what does this day mean for the UK?
Yeah, no, we're very excited about the launch. I mean, this is something which we've been working on for more than a decade now. As you rightly say, the UK tonight will become the first country to launch satellites from European soil, and that's been a long process involving a lot of folks, not just at Virgin, but throughout our space sector, which employs about 47,000 people. It's much bigger than most people realise. The other thing people possibly don't know is that more satellites are produced in the UK anywhere outside of California. So we're big into producing particularly the smaller and the nano satellites, the type that Virgin Orbit put into space. And so to see these 9 go up finally this evening, it's extremely exciting, and we're delighted to have backed this launch. And Cornwall could be one of 7 spaceports springing up throughout the UK. So we were excited to see this one and others developing.
And you mentioned some of the industry here in the UK. So how do you think this and future launches will really help propel the space ecosystem in the UK, including jobs? And what makes the UK such a great destination for launch and for space?
Been set.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, I think anything like a space launch just puts it front and center of people's minds. I was just watching the top of the 10 o'clock news here on the BBC, and I see they were giving this a mention and saying that the satellites are being launched right now. It brings people's attention to it. So if you're a youngster and you're watching this tonight or you're catching up on it tomorrow, you'll be understanding that space launches are something that happen from the UK. I think that's incredibly important. It brings more people into the business. You asked the sensible question of why the UK. Well, it happens that particularly for the type of satellites which are increasingly getting launched, a lot of these smaller satellites, they've gone from about 1% of the market to 11%. And we think that over the next decade or so, there'll be huge opportunities, probably about £15 billion worth of launches of these smaller satellites. The UK happens to have the right location, in other words, geographically. We've got the right science with, 7 of the world's top 20 universities, and we've got the right industry combined with government to help all of those things stack up and ensure these launches can happen. And I know that from personal experience, because both in my current job as business secretary, but also in my previous job as the transport secretary, I've tracked and worked on this launch. I've been down to Newquay in Cornwall. I actually brought over the rocket for the G7 last year to Cornwall. So we've had a lot of, to get these things going, you have to have a lot of different elements come together: regulatory, scientific, industry, government, all working in tandem, and that's the thing the UK's got going for.
And we know that you have a strong love for science, and part of your platform is making Britain really a science superpower. How do you see space launch and this ecosystem developing in Cornwall contributing to that?
Well, look, it's hugely important to that. I was just looking across the kind of list of, the payloads tonight. There are a whole variety of different satellites. So you've got Amber-1, that's a satellite that's built in Glasgow. You've got Prometheus-2, that's a satellite built in Hampshire. You've got Space Forge satellite that's built in Cardiff. So you see, as I go around the country here, every part of the country, every part of the United Kingdom has got a link to what's going on in Cornwall tonight. And that's incredibly, incredibly important and exciting. But as I mentioned before, not to take anything away from Virgin Orbit, because you guys have got there first with this unique launch system that has so many benefits. But we have a number of vertical spaceports being built and being planned, so 7 in total. And I'm expecting to see vertical launch from Scotland, for example, possibly later this year or next year. So this is an exciting time. It's worth a lot of jobs, not just in Cornwall there, perhaps 250 or so, but actually across the country, in the thousands, in the tens of thousands, and making the UK a great place to do space.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the payloads on this mission, and there's some firsts. I mean, there's the first Welsh satellite, the first Omani satellite. So there's a real also international flavor in space. How important is it, one, for the UK to have its own launch and end-to-end sustainable space-based capability vis-a-vis other spacefaring nations, so as a nation leading in the space realm, and two, really international partnerships. I mean, I know that this is important for UK, you mentioned the other launchers, but clearly space is an international cooperative industry, and so working across country lines is equally important.
That is absolutely true, and just in the autumn we signed a deal essentially with the European Space Agency. We put in, I think the figure springs to mind is over £1.8 billion. We secured 3 more British astronauts. So we're working in the international sphere, so in Europe, but also with NASA and a whole variety, and have historically done so. Kind of interestingly, though, you ask a really interesting question, because the UK is the only country in the world to more than 50 years ago have designed, built, and launched its own rockets and satellites successfully into space, and then scrapped the entire launch program. This was back in 1971. It's a long time ago now. It was kind of a surprising thing to do, given many other countries or other locations continued or have got into the space race since then. I think the big thing that's changed is the commercialization of space ever since, though, because I was just looking back. You only have to go back to 2019, and there are only about 500 satellites launched globally. But in 2021, so just a couple of years later, there were 1,900 satellites launched. So you can see this is a massively growing market, particularly these smaller nano satellites, some of which are no bigger than a shoebox, that the United Kingdom really has great speciality in, as well as some of the bigger ones, which we've always heard. So there's a big market, and we want to work globally. We want to do that, but we also think that we can grab probably as much as 30% of the launch market on these smaller satellites, which is something we're very keen to do.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the UK has all the pieces to the puzzle. You've got all the satellite manufacturers, you've got incredible universities, you have the logistics, and now you have the launch capability. So really, you have this end-to-end sustainable space applications mission capability that is unrivaled practically for the small satellite market in particular, and definitely joining the other few nations that actually have their own launch capabilities. So I think really that we're pleased to be your partner on this journey and help make that a reality. Maybe shift.
Well, thanks very much. It's great to hear you say that, because folks won't know, but we generate about £16.5 billion from space income each year in this country, and it's only set to grow. And we're going to work internationally to make that happen. And having this launch capability from British soil clearly puts us front and centre of that.
Absolutely. And finally, I think some people know that you're a pilot yourself. So as you know, captive carry is happening. Our pilots are going on this journey, going forward. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience as a pilot. Just what's going through your mind? Like, what is your mental state right now, and how exciting is this for the people that are really on the front lines here of this launch?
Well, obviously I offered Virgin Orbit the opportunity to use me as the pilot, and I'm just kidding. I think everyone who flies, everyone with a pilot's license knows that the thing that you're always doing before a flight is you going through the pre-flight checks in your mind, and then after that you go through the whole sequence of thinking through the flight. I visualize the flights that I take in advance, and I know that the captain will be doing exactly that. Incredibly experienced RAF pilot flying the aircraft this evening. He will have run through this, has done it, of course, in reality as well, so it's not just a sort of in principle thing. And that visualization, I always find as a pilot, really helps the process of flying. And of course, on a mission as important as this, I know that is the work that will have been going on in advance.
Yeah, and we're of course rooting for our pilots, we're rooting for our engineers, we're rooting for our team. I know the country is behind this mission. We're excited to be here in the UK. Grant, in the few seconds we have left, is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers maybe about this mission, or about some other insights, some parting words, if you will?
Well, look, when I came down to Newquay and we brought over the rocket last year, actually it was a replica of the rocket last year, some people said to me at the time, this is all fine, but actually, is this just a static display? Is it really going to happen? Is it really going to happen from the UK? And, you know, collectively, and you guys in particular have proved that the answer is definitively yes. The aircraft's in the sky. I think in, what is that, in 48 minutes or so, we're looking for the drop. So, you know, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. And it's now thousands of people who've been involved in getting this mission up and running. There were any number of things which could have stopped it. And the first time you do something, particularly from somewhere new, you know, there are lots of regulatory barriers to overcome. I actually want to express my thanks to my Irish counterpart, who I spoke to and helped clear the airspace, to the Portuguese, and many others who've been involved in this evening. But look, I think this is amazingly exciting time. We're all eyes glued to the drop and the launch of these satellites, and well done to you folks for making this happen. And tonight, all eyes are on the United Kingdom launching these satellites.
All right, Secretary of State Grant Shapps, thank you so much again for your continued support. Thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing the partnership.
Thank you.
Which is a good thing. We are tracking nominally on our flight path out towards the racetrack right now. We'll be back in a moment.
The art of the possibility when it comes to operating in space. This was just really another one of those opportunities to do something brand new, to do something exciting, and that's all really truly in our DNA.
And so, of course, I mean, there are other launch sites, historic launch sites in the USA, like Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg. What do you see as the value of having additional launch sites, in particular out of the United States?
Yeah, anytime that we can go to any different launch site, any different launch capability, that adds diversity to the portfolio of launch solutions that we as the NRO launch providers are able to give our customer set. That enables them to be able to not hinder what they're doing with their technologies and really opens up the aperture for more advancement and more ability to do what we need to do in space.
And so do you see then there being potential advantage or value to geographical spread, particularly when you think about launching internationally?
Oh, no doubt. And that's just, again, the diversity that we're talking about. And anytime that we're not committed to any one or two launch sites, that just it enables us to do different things, to do better things from wherever we need to do.
Absolutely. And yeah, we agree. We think there's definitely different opportunities to provide access to different orbits and mission capabilities internationally. So moving to another topic, there's that phrase responsive launch, responsive space, and you know, it's a pretty exciting term in the national security world in particular. What do those terms mean to you, and you know, how is that important to your mission?
Yeah, responsive launch from my perspective is really being able to be responsive to my satellite customers' needs, to be able to deliver a launch solution when they need it, where they need it, how they need it, unconstrained. So having vertical launch, having horizontal launch, all of those things, you know, add additional toolbox, adds to my toolkit that I can take to my customer set.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, launching on demand potentially would be a whole nother benefit within a 24-hour period or so, which is something Virgin Orbit is trying to accomplish. So another question would be, a lot of what you and your NRO colleagues have talked about when discussing this mission in particular is the value of the partnership. I think the international partnership in particular with the UK RAF. With all that's going on in the world and in space right now, both in the areas of conflict and in times of peace, what do you see as the start of international partnerships and interoperability between the US, the UK, and potentially other partners? What are those benefits there?
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. The agility, partnership, and interoperability were the three big things for us with this mission. You talked about partnership and interoperability there. No doubt, you know, if you look at the logo for this mission, it screams partnership. You've got NRO, US Space Force, UK Space Agency, RAF, the list goes on and on and on, not to mention our industry partners. So yeah, partnership was a key part of this entire mission for us. And then, you know, as launch folks, we like talking about the launch, but we don't exist unless we put capability on orbit. Right. And as the primary rideshare for this mission, you know, we're here. I have a job to get capability on orbit, and with these primary payloads that we're working with the UK MOD and DSTL, that's the whole goal, is to be able to demonstrate our allied interoperability with that data sharing across our partners in this, as you mentioned, incredibly dynamic and quite frankly dangerous space environment that we're dealing with today.
So you definitely see that, you know, this type of partnership is something that will be valued going forward, and more such missions will likely be accomplished then in the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime who knows what tomorrow looks like, right? But again, anytime I can provide unique solutions, any other kind of launch solutions to my customer set, that's attractive to them. So yeah, we certainly hope to. Yep. This has been the Cornwall community here, the Cornwall Spaceport, the Newquay community have just been absolutely fantastic. You know, we were in a taxi the last time we were down here, and they were like, "Oh, are you out here for the launch? That's so exciting!" You know, the community is just really embracing, and it's fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially being a historical first here, I mean, it really means something to be part of it. So it is, you can feel that excitement, totally. You know, whether it's in the taxi cab or at the launch site. Yeah. And then finally, the other major element of the partnership that often gets discussed is between government and commercial industry. How is the ability to leverage commercial industry in particular, and in order to tap into new capabilities, change the way that you and your colleagues work and think about missions?
Well, and it enables us to really unlock the innovation. You know, that we are all about advancing technology and innovating. Nobody does that better, more efficiently, quicker than the commercial environment. So anytime that we on the government side are able to put constructs in place, like the contract that we used to acquire this particular launch service, that really harnesses the energy and the power that's in that commercial industry, so we can work together better and ultimately advance our U.S. and allied capabilities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, of course, on the commercial side. But I mean, and we likewise appreciate the partnerships with government entities that are also encouraging and supporting new technologies to come to the market. So it definitely is, you know, it's a symbiotic relationship that I think fosters and supports both sides. So Colonel Davis, it's really been a pleasure having you here today, and we thank you for coming down to Cornwall. Do you have any final thoughts or words you'd like to say as we get ready for the launch?
No, I just, again, thank you. Thanks to Mel, who's been the host most of today on this, her and her team, and then the Virgin Orbit and Virgin Orbit National Systems teams have just been fantastic to partner with on this particular mission. And I personally have been really proud to just play a small role in it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, back to you guys.
User interface. All of our levels are still nominal. We're watching, as I had mentioned earlier, we're watching that payload adaptive temperature, but that is still doing totally fine for this phase of the flight. For those folks that have been watching our 3D map, which we'll bring up now, you'll notice that we did fly just south of the county of Cork in Ireland. We've taken our left-hand turn and now we're in our racetrack that I had mentioned earlier. So we'll be moving into our coal pass in just a moment. We are still on track for our previously advertised drop time. So yeah, stay with us. You already heard about the Prometheus payload that is one of our payloads that we're taking to space today. I want to tell you a little bit more about a few more of the ride shares that we have on board. The first one there is the IOD-3 Amber, or commonly known as the IOD, which is developed by the Satellite Applications Catapult and Horizon Technologies and is built by AAC Clyde Space, all based in the United Kingdom. IOD-3 is expected to be the first of more than 20 Amber satellites to provide space-based maritime domain awareness data to users. Another one is CIRC, or the Coordinated Ionospheric Reconstruction CubeSat Experiment, and it's a part of a joint mission between the UK's Defence Science and Technology Laboratory and the US Naval Research Laboratory. Third one there is Dover, which is developed by the RHEA Group of Belgium, and it's the company's first satellite in its 30-year history. We're very proud to be carrying her on board today, and is being co-funded through the European Space Agency's navigation program and built by Open Cosmos of the United Kingdom. Dover is a small sat that was created as a pathfinder for resilient global navigation satellite systems. We're going to bring up the GUI again. Just a couple of notes from the MCC. Our launch commit criteria for terminal count has been given the all clear. The terminal count is the portion when the rocket goes into an autonomous mode. We did have some questions on the YouTube stream that I want to address. Some folks saying this is actually the second launch after Wallace and Gromit went to the moon for cheese. Thank you very much for that. And also the use of Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Typically in the aerospace world, we use imperial units over metric units. I think that's all I got for the moment. Like I said, we're moving into the cold pass and things are about to get very exciting. So please stay with us.
The moment we've all been waiting for is about to come. But before that, we want to talk a little bit about the mission name, Start Me Up, which is named after the iconic British rock band's record, Start Me Up, that was released by Virgin Records in 1981. I can't think of a better name for the mission for a starting up launch out of the UK. But let's hear a little bit more from a familiar face, Sir Richard Branson.
Start Me Up. I can't think of a more perfect name for Virgin Orbit's first launch from Spaceport Cornwall than the UK's first launch and the start of an important and exciting new capability. I first heard the Rolling Stones when I was at school, and their songs have been in my head ever since. As a nervous teenager, armed with a tape recorder bigger than me, I interviewed Mick Jagger for Student magazine. And years later, we tried to sign the band, and years after that, we finally managed to bring the Stones to Virgin Records, and they helped make us the biggest independent record label in the world. I remember hearing Keith Richards kick off Start Me Up when we promoted the Stones comeback tour in 2012. A decade on, they're still going strong, and I've loved spending time with them over the years, even if Ronnie Wood beats me at poker and pool. One of the most wonderful parts of Virgin Orbit's missions has been the opportunity to bring the Virgin family together, not least by honouring a Virgin Records artist with each launch. And this should be the most thrilling one yet. Congratulations and good luck to all involved in this launch in Cornwall, the UK and worldwide. Like the song says, once we start it up,
We will never stop.
Welcome back. Just a quick update from the MCC. As you can see on the screen right now, we have made it through our cold pass, and we're now working through the hot pass. The counter on the left-hand side is a little bit of a misnomer because it's really drop ready time. And I also did want to mention, you probably saw a quick camera feed that we had where the screen looked black. That's actually nominal because that was a live camera feed from the camera that's actually on the rocket underneath the payload fairing. You can see now this is an aft camera view from the drop. So we have, it looks to be a successful ignition of the stage 1 engine as we make our way to space. Like I had said before, a lot happens very quickly after drop. You can see here that we're actually getting towards the end of our stage 1 burn. Everything is nominal so far. We've had our pitch up on the bottom, on the burn time
Stage 1
that you
throttle
can
down
see
commanded.
on the graphical user interface if you do have that one up. We have made it through max Q alpha, which is one of the most stressful physical moments for the rocket, very comfortably through max Q. And then also through our maximum heat, aerodynamic heat heating. We have made it through MECO, our main engine cutoff. That is our Newton 3 engine shutdown, is reported as nominal. And if we can go back to our aft camera.
Fairing brake wire is broken.
We have stage separation. You may see dropouts in the data during the flight here. That is expected as we're switching between the different ground stations that are picking up the signal from the rocket.
Switching data source to the Nuki.
Now, as you can see, the trajectory that's being shown on the screen is no longer of Cosmic Girl because she is on her way back to Spaceport Cornwall in the UK. The trajectory is now tracking LauncherOne as she makes her way down the Atlantic Ocean towards the Canary Islands.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal. That means our flight path is as expected, being picked up by those ground stations. We're probably almost coming up on halfway through our stage 2 burn number 1. On the GUI here, you can see in the center there, obviously the cool flame coming out the left-hand side, but you can see the fuel and the oxygen leaving the stage as it goes through the engine. Another really neat thing to see is the gimbal over on the left-hand side. The blue square with the dot in the middle shows you the position of the engine as it is steering stage 1.
Stage 2 burn nominal.
Altitude now is looking at around about 600,000 feet. Approximately 3 miles per second. Bus voltages for the batteries are nominal. You may have noticed that we had a lower voltage while we were in captive carry.
Switching data source to
That's
Madrid.
because the power was being provided by Cosmic Girl at that point before we switched over to the rocket's internal batteries. Stage 2 burn is a little longer than the stage 1 burn, so this might take a little while for us to get to second engine cutoff 1. As I said earlier, there are points of the flight where we don't have the telemetry coming from the rocket because we are out of view of the ground stations. Our flight software folks have implemented a store and forward on our rocket, which means that when we are out of view of the ground stations, we are storing that data so that the next time we do come in view of a ground station, we can download it and
confirm target lock
through.
from Madrid. Data source switch to Madrid.
Our Madrid ground station has locked on to our rocket and is streaming the data now.
Confirm signal from Maspalomas, switching telemetry source to Maspalomas. Newton 4 shutdown initiated.
You just heard the call for Newton 4 shutdown. Newton 4 is our stage 2 engine. So that is the completion of the first burn of our second stage. You can see along the bottom of the screen right now, our flight timeline has been updated to show the Cosmic Girl is returning, obviously, and then LauncherOne, which takes up the majority of the flight timeline there, is at our S2 cutoff, or our second stage engine cutoff. So now's probably a good time to talk a little bit about our rocket profile. Like I said, once we get to drop, a lot of stuff happens very, very quickly. What you might have seen is initially after the drop, around about 5 seconds or so after the drop, because we need to make sure that our aircraft is safe and out of the way, we fire what we call our propellant settling thrusters, or our PSTs, and they're solid rocket boosters that are on the back of LauncherOne, and they give the rocket a little push forward to settle our propellants for stage 1. And then we have that main engine start, or MES, for S1. And then you saw over, I think it was about 3 minutes or so, our stage 1 burn, which, as I had said before, does most of the heavy lifting, and our main engine cutoff. Separated from stage 2, and stage 2 has to do the work for the rest of the journey. We start our second stage engine, which is the burn that just happened. And during that burn, we separate our fairings. And what that does, it opens up the pointy end of the rocket, essentially, through ordnance firing. That opens up that section and exposes the payloads. We continue to fly under power on our second stage during that first burn, and then we'll have that cut off. And you can see the graphic on the screen right now. We again get to the coast, which is the phase that we're in right now. And we do a maneuver. We execute a maneuver called the barbecue roll. So essentially we are rifling through the atmosphere. And what this does is it avoids one side of the stage from getting too hot and the other from getting too cold. Our rocket is covered in a spray-on foam insulator, but this is a very standard maneuver procedure that most rocket companies execute. Once we've finished our coast, we will do a second engine start, so SES2. So we restart our second stage engine to lift us a little more, and then we'll cut off that engine, and after that will be our payload separation. And that's when we can start popping champagne corks and dancing. After payload separation, we do have a couple of extra things that we want to do here during this mission, and we will do a maneuver called the CCAM, or the Contamination and Collision Avoidance Maneuver, and then we will actually fire our second stage for a third time, so you'll hear calls for SES, or Second Engine Start 3, and then SECO, or Second Engine Cutoff 3. Once that's complete, we go into a phase that we call safing, and then the mission is complete. You can see images on screen right now from our Mission Control Center over in Cornwall, the UK. Take a moment to say how much we appreciate the folks that came out to Cornwall this evening to watch our launch. It is a historic day, obviously, for the United Kingdom, but for Eastern Europe as well. And we very much appreciate you all being here today, including those folks that have joined us on the live stream through YouTube. Thank you for being here and being part of this journey with us.
Control, we're going to change the traffic light back to green. SMA concurs changing traffic light to green. LD to SMA on control, do you copy? SMA controls on copy, go ahead. Have you let the tower know that hazardous operations have ended? No, I have not and I cannot, but I can coordinate with Range 1 on FA-NET. Copy. Also, did you change the traffic light? No, I did not. Sorry, we're going to green. Is it green now? Let me pull up the... It's okay, LC is working it. Okay, copy. SMA
Welcome back, everyone. This is, of course, the least interesting part of the flight. We are in S2 coast, so there's not a lot happening, and you're not probably hearing a lot of audio come from the Mission Control Center. But I did want to let you know that Cosmic Girl is only minutes away from landing. That is our primary mission, is safety here at Virgin Orbit, and we want to ensure that our flight crew and all the folks on the ground are ultimately safe at all phases of our mission. So yeah, just a quick update here from the MCC. We'll be back with more in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. It appears that LauncherOne has suffered an anomaly which will prevent us from making orbit for this mission. We are looking at the information and data that we have gotten, and we'll be back with you in a moment with more.
Oh, don't know if you heard that, but yes, looks like it's an anomaly and they haven't made airborne. That's a pity. Oh, let's just turn myself off. Yeah, looks like it's been an anomaly and haven't made orbit. I don't know if you heard that or not. So yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, the telemetry, as those of you who missed it, went a bit weird earlier on. So whether that had something to do with it, well, we're not really sure. But I suppose we just wait for some updates and to see what happens. Stay tuned.
Welcome back as we see Cosmic Girl touching down back to UK Spaceport Cornwall. She did a magnificent job today and was fully successful in her portion of the mission. As I had said earlier, Virgin Orbit's #1 priority is the safety of our flight crew and the folks on the ground as well. So we can see that she has come home safely. Welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us for this long, everyone. We have experienced an anomaly, and we are gathering more information. I did want to take this opportunity to thank our customers, our Virgin Orbit team, VONS, UK Spaceport Cornwall, of course, and our BSL interpreters over in the UK. We're going to be ending our live stream at this point, but please be sure to check out our other channels, our social media channels, for more information as soon as it's available.
Ah, there you go. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Seems to be coming through. If you just put 1 in the chat, that would be good, just so I know you can hear me. Cool, cool. Okay. Well, isn't that a shame? Failed to reach orbit. I'm not sure that it even reached to the point where we had the second burn over the coast phase. I don't think it reached that point because I was reading that it was the second burn was around about I think it was 5,000 seconds or something. So I don't think it even reached that point. And those of you that were here during the early stages, the telemetry that we saw went a bit strange, and we were a bit concerned that something might have happened even at that point. So I personally think that it went a bit wrong at that point, but I guess we'll find out, and sadly this is what happened with launches. Virgin Orbit is a relatively new venture. Their first launch was in 2020. And they've, out of now 6 launches, they've had 2 failures. So only 4 successes. So that's a success rate of 66%. I mean, with a new startup launch company, it's not unusual to see that from what I can gather. So, time will tell. They do need another successful one. I think if the next one isn't successful, I don't think it'll do them very many favors at all. Customers need to have confidence that they can get their payloads to orbit. This is at the end of the day, this is a market, this is a business. So, let's hope that they're successful. And it's a shame that the first one on UK soil was a failure. But again, like I said, this is the risks you take, and it's a relatively new system. I mean, air launches are not that new, but in modern times, in terms of this company and all the rest of it, it is. And I'm not that familiar with air launches, I must admit. It's not something that I've really looked into very much, but I think I will from now on in, and look, because I think because when we had Professor Phil Bell earlier on as well, he was mentioning that it does reduce the costs down quite considerably. Because if you think about having a launch pad and launching, traditionally from a launch pad, all the facilities that you needed and the infrastructure just from a land-based launch to orbit is costly. It's expensive, as well as everything else. So I think it's probably going to be the way forward of things, I think, in the future. So hopefully Virgin Orbit can bounce back from that, and we'll see them having a successful launch the next time. So it just leaves me to say thank you very, very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. There was more of you that joined to watch than I expected. Wasn't one of the sleekest streams for somebody to put out on YouTube from a launch company, but at the end of the day, they're not SpaceX. So they're fairly new to it, I guess, as well. We didn't see a whole lot of action, to be honest with you, but it's an air launch, plus it was at night as well, so we were never really going to see a great deal, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. We get what we can get, right? And I know because it was on British soil, me being British, it would have been remiss of me not to cover it. So I just want to thank you very much, Rich 901, Ugly German Truce, MS Shedland 49. Thank you very much, Slick 666, Phil 4986. And everybody else that joined, thank you very, very much. Let me see, we've got a few more launches actually in different events coming up shortly. Let me just let you know about those because I can't remember the dates of those. Let me off the top of my head. Let's have a look. So we've got the next one. Let's have a look. 21st February. Oh, we've got a Falcon Heavy launch coming up on the 12th. That has already been moved. I would need to check whether that's been moved again. That's on the 12th of January. I'll be going live from 10:45 p.m. GMT. So what's that? That's 5:45 p.m. Eastern. And that would be what, 3:45, I guess, Pacific. Unless I've got my figures wrong. That's just right off the top of my head. So I hope you can join with that. What I'll do is I'll put the link to that in the chat. So that would be really great if you can join me for that. So what I'm actually doing, the channel in terms of launches and things like that, is really covering the kind of the main launches, really, the most sort of exciting ones or firsts and things like that. And any manned launches, I want to cover those as well fairly regularly. I'm covering another one is some of the ISS spacewalks, particularly with the replacement of the solar panels. People seem to have liked that for some reason. So there's another one coming up for that as well, coming up soon, which I'll give you the date of that shortly. Oh, where is it? I'm getting all mixed up now. I've got so many tabs open, I must have high IQ. So yeah, on the 31st of January, we've got a live ISS spacewalk, and what I do is I tend to provide a tracker as well, and as well as also the live Earth cam at the same time. So like we get some streams that just show the spacewalk, which is fine. But I like to try and provide as much information during that as well. So hopefully you can do that. Also on the 19th of February, we got Crew 6. SpaceX Crew 6 going to the ISS, and that's on the 19th of February. So hopefully you can join me in that as well. So really, yeah, that does leave me now to say a very good night, and thank you once again. A shame that it didn't make it to orbit, but that's the way things go sometimes. So it just leaves me to say, I'm Matt B, signing out. Thank you very much.